This is the Burrow House, a plantation home in tiny Statesburg, South Carolina, about 10 miles west of Sumter. It has been the site of many Forrest Gump-like moments.
A lot of really important but not splashy historic people have wandered through here.
Perhaps the quietest of them all was arguably the most important story to tell.
It began here
in 1935 when three young girls discovered a stack of letters while playing in the basement of this home.
Those letters,
now held at USC's Carolina Library,
tell the story of a slave named April.
There's been a really good job of whitewashing.
A very
awkward discussion.
It's a hugely awkward discussion.
In 1802,
a white plantation owner
named
named William Ellison
one of his young slaves, April, to work for a gin maker in Winsboro. April quickly became the go-to man for repairing the expensive cotton gins throughout the Sumter area.
They send him out to the plantations and they take him apart. He would sharpen on location. That's why he heard about Statesburg. He came through here as a young man, even he so well when he bought his freedom or whatever. He came
the center of plantation country, the wealthiest area of South Carolina. He changed his name. April was now known as William Ellison, the name of his former white owner. His gin business prospered. He bought this home, hundreds of acres of land, and eventually 68 slaves to work that land. Granger McCoy now lives in the Ellison home and says he often finds old cotton gin blades.
What did the Ellison say when they come?
They're looking for the home place.
All descendants of what many of us thought an impossible oxymoron, a black slave owner.
I had a black ophthalmologist here, Ellison. We sat on this couch right here. And his great-great-granddaddy owned 68 slaves. Here I am, white over here. And my great-great-granddaddy didn't own any slaves. And it was like somebody blew a dog whistle in a kennel. Everybody just kind of turning the head, not knowing how to handle all
History tumbles here.
What little we can learn about Ellison as a slave owner isn't pretty. The book Black Masters chronicles Ellison's life in the antebellum South. Suggests that his slaves were the worst fed and clothed of any in Statesburg. It also suggests that Ellison was a slave breeder, selling off infant girls, a practice even some white owners found cruel. Whatever the case, Ellison certainly had a good relationship with other white aristocracy. This contrast shows that Ellison didn't just buy a home in wealthy Statesburg. He bought it directly from former Governor Stephen Miller, a governor and former slave trading property. He was the wealthiest black man in South Carolina, the fourth wealthiest in the South, wealthier than more than 90% of whites. Just a few hundred yards from the Ellison home is the Ellison graveyard. Private, neither mixed with other white nor black tombstones, symbolic of his unusual position in the pre-war South, a position so few of us even knew existed.
Whatever happened during Reconstruction, and then up through the Jim Crow era, anything and everything that had to deal with the relationships between the blacks and the whites just went underground.
And may have remained so, not for a stack of letters found under his house. For Hidden Columbia, Anderson Burns, ABC.
Hello everyone, welcome to GGN. Today is Tuesday, February 26, 2013. I'm Darko. All right, I'm going to continue here with this article. I believe it's separate from the video that I just saw. The video was supposedly posted or published on February 18th, 2013, but I'm not sure when this actually aired from the local affiliate down in South Carolina. But then you have this from WorldNet Daily. Father of U.S. Slavery was a black man. So it's an exclusive reveals a story, true history of legal human bondage. So, and this was published 2 days ago. So the story, of course, begins with talking about February being African American month, and it says here, it is well known for the first colonials that arrived on the shores, basically of America, following the settlement of Jamestown by the Virginia Company in 1607. Perhaps what is not so well known is the fact that following the 30 Years' War, the European economy was extremely depressed. Consequently, many skilled and unskilled laborers there were without work, and the New World offered hope and chance for a new future. So many of them who came to America arrived as indentured servants, and this included some Africans. So the distinction is critical. Indentured servants were not slaves. The first blacks to arrive in America were not slaves, but indentured servants. So in 1619, all indentured servants, white or black, had specified periods of servitude ranging from 4 to 7 years and received precisely the same treatment and rewards. In conclusion, for the respective periods of servitude, each was entitled to freedom, citizenship, and a land grant of 25 to 50 acres. Throughout the period when all land was held in trust for the king, the basis of land disposition were grants dispensed by local governments according with the king's wishes. So it goes on here, it says, under the system, every person who paid his own way to Virginia would be entitled to 50 acres of land known as head right. They said there's no stigma attached, and all families, black or white, subsequently enjoyed all the rights and privileges of other citizens of the community. So you can go in there and check it out. It gives this, goes over this case about this Anthony Johnson and this slave or indentured servant John Kasser, and basically there was all this some stories about how he was actually detained illegally, or that he didn't fulfill his period of service. So basically, he went to court and everything, and he won. And he was trying. This guy Johnson, the slave owner, was trying to make him a slave for life. But it goes on here. It says this was apparently the first legal sanction of slavery, not for a crime in the New World. Johnson, the slave owner who had himself been captured in Angola and brought to America as an indentured servant, was a black man. From evidence found in early legal documents, Johnson must be recognized as the nation's first official legal slave owner. So in regards to political correctness, do we celebrate that as part of Black History Month? Anti-Defamation League slams Seth MacFarlane's Jews Control Hollywood joke. So I actually didn't even see this, but the ADL on Monday blasted an Oscars sketch in which potty-mouthed film, you gotta remember this is a real left site, raw story, in which potty-mouthed film star Bear Ted joked about Jews in Hollywood, calling it offensive and not remotely funny. So the pro-Zionist anti-Semitism watchdog said the sketch hosted by the Family Guy and TED creator Seth MacFarlane on Sunday night was sad and disheartening. While we have come to expect inappropriate Jews Control Hollywood jokes from Seth MacFarlane, what he did at the Oscars was offensive and not remotely funny. They said it only reinforces stereotypes which legitimize anti-Semitism. It goes on here and it says that this Ted, the little teddy bear, whatever, mentions to on-screen buddy actor Mark Wahlberg that if you want to work in this town, you have to be Jewish. So this is funny right here. It says, but when one considers the sensitive global audience of the Oscars of upwards of 2 billion people, including many of whom know little or nothing about Hollywood or the falsity of such Jewish stereotypes, there is much higher potential for Jews Control Hollywood myth to be accepted. Well, is it a myth? I don't know. Let's see. This is from the Times of Israel. Jews do control the media. Okay. So it says, Jews are a funny breed. We love to brag about every Jewish actor. Sometimes we even pretend an actor is Jewish because we like him enough that we think he deserves to be on our team. We brag about Jewish authors, politicians, directors. Every time someone mentions any movie, book, or piece of art, we inevitably say something like, did you know that he was Jewish? That's just how we roll. So it says we have, for example, AIPAC, which essentially constructed just to drive agenda in Washington, D.C., and it succeeds admirably. It says, and we brag about it again. So that's just what we do. But it goes on here and it says, but the funny part is that when any anti-Semite or anti-Israel person starts to spout stuff like the Jews control the media and the Jews control Washington, suddenly we're up in arms. We create huge campaigns to take these people down. Publish articles. We create an entire organization that exists just to tell everyone that Jews don't control nothing. No, we don't control the media. We don't have any more sway in D.C. than anyone else. No, we swear. We're just like everybody else. But does anyone else see the irony of this? Let's be honest with ourselves here, fellow Jews. We do control the media. We've got so many dudes up in the executive offices and most of the big movie production companies, it's almost obscene. Just about every movie or TV show, whether it be Tropic Thunder or Curb Your Enthusiasm, is rife with actors, directors, and writers who are Jewish. Did you know that all 8 major film studios are run by Jews? But that's not all. We control the ads that go on TV shows. So this article here is coming from the ADL. We know what? It's the face of hate. So it goes on and says the Anti-Defamation League was created in 1913 by the racist secret society known as B'nai B'rith. Not sure if I pronounced that properly, but this organization, which exists today, excludes people based on their ethnic background and religion. It is exclusively restricted to powerful Jews who believe in racial superiority. Its effort at censorship against all people who wish to express themselves in a way that by the ADL is seen as anti-Zionist or anti-Semitic. It's pretty interesting, this article. I don't know if you remember it from November of last year. Rupert Murdoch from Fox or News Corps said what? He apologized for the ADL for a Jewish-owned press tweet. So he apologized to the Anti-Defamation League in a phone call and follow-up letter for his controversial tweet blasting the Jewish-owned press for their anti-Israel coverage. Yeah, it's pretty interesting because he wasn't actually bashing anything. He was bashing the press for not defending Israel enough. He was saying, why is Jewish-owned press so consistently anti-Israel in every crisis? I don't know about that, but either way, it just goes to show you the ridiculousness of it. Obama using fake Twitter messages in fight over gun control. Texas Republican on Monday said Obama's gun control campaign is a fraud based on fake messages over Twitter. So the Republican accused Obama of trying to make support for his position looking stronger than it really is by flooding Twitter with messages from people who don't exist. So, and this is what? This is what I was talking about with engineered consent. He also said there are other 10 are fake computer-generated spam bots. Next up, the NRA uses Justice memo to accuse Obama administration of wanting to confiscate guns. So the NRA is using Justice Department memo it obtained to argue it in advertisements that Obama and his administration believes its gun control plans won't work unless government seizes firearms and requires national gun registration, ideas the White House has not proposed and does not support. So either way. This is from Alternative News. I'm not bashing InfoWars or anything. A point I wanted to make. It says, yes, Hitler and Stalin did take the gun. So debunking the meme that historical gun grabs by dictatorships is a myth. So this article is from January 11th of 2013. The Hitler gun control lie. Gun rights activists who cite the dictator as a reason against gun control have their history dangerously wrong. So, of course, this article, in the beginning, it's all right, and it gives the history, but then it goes into kind of their own little agenda there at the bottom, which is, that's their right. So, but you go in there and it actually goes in there and actually admits that what happened actually was that after the Versailles Treaty, they actually had very stiff gun control, and then in the 30s and that, especially in 38, they actually relaxed gun measures, except for Jews and probably communists. So, but yeah, they're talking about the 1938. So here's an article, Russians learned an indelible lesson in gun control from the Bolsheviks of Zion. You can go in there and check it out. Links will be posted. So the Illuminati Jews and Freemasons who run the U.S. and Europe are cut from the same cloth as the Russian Bolsheviks who committed unspeakable atrocities. It would just be nice and refreshing to see InfoWars if they could actually make a difference, right? Which is that in Germany, they were disarming Jews and people that they considered to be outsiders because they knew that the communists and the Bolsheviks were coming. Whereas in Russia, it was mostly Jews that were disarming basically ethnic Russians and Christians and slaughtering them as well. My point is stuff like this I've talked about before. Ron Paul, who obviously I think is a shill now, his son Rand Paul is obviously a Zionist. He's done everything to support them. He's been very outspoken about it. So it goes on here and it says that gun confiscation will lead to revolution. So this is the thing. The threat of gun confiscation will lead to a desired revolution by these same people. So be careful. That's all I'm saying. Pastor plans toy gun buyback program. So it goes on here and it says that they're raising funds for a gun buyback program in St. Louis, the police that is. This pastor of this Baptist church wants to catch kids before they even think about wielding a weapon. So his church is planning to have a toy gun buyback program later this summer. So to a certain extent, I kind of agree with this because we're talking about a culture of violence and stuff like that, gory movies. The only difference is that you should still teach your children how to handle a weapon and stuff like that, and that it's not a toy. I think that's what needs to the distinction that needs to be made, is that it's not a toy. Where when people see guns when they get older, they think they're toys. Why are military veterans receiving letters from feds prohibiting ownership or purchasing of firearms? So a determination of incompetency will prohibit you from purchasing, possessing, receiving, blah, 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 transporting a firearm and ammunition. So you could be fined or imprisoned. It says that this basically is being sent by the Department of Veterans Affairs to hundreds, perhaps thousands of American heroes. The military is being required to justify using animals in medic training after pressure from activists. Apparently thousands of goats and pigs have been mutilated, though the military argues the animals have not died in vain. says the demand was tucked into the National Defense Authorization Act of 2013, which asks for the Pentagon to rely less on animals and more on simulators. Thank you.